music. Anyways, my shift changed yesterday. So I finished my training, and they told me specifically be back um, to begin work at 3 today. But I ended up showing up at 8 in the morning. Well, I didn't show up, but I drove just about 90% of the way, which is about an hour. So now I'm driving back, and I said, you know what? We go on YouTube. It's a long drive, and I have a lot in my mind. So I figured, okay, I'll just connect, talk live. On the way here, I was listening to a 1 hour tutorial. 1 hour tutorial. I didn't get the whole thing of it, but I don't want to watch the tutorial back. And it's too early to play music. Así que yo dije, bueno, mejor me hace un video aquí en YouTube. Eh, de hecho, el tutorial que estaba cogiendo era un tutorial de ChatGPT Work. That's the that's the latest. That's the tool that I've been waiting for all my life. Right? So I've been going in the last month or so, and just as I was diving deep and connecting all my sources and getting all my files organized, just as I was doing that, uh, OpenAI released T Work for just any project you want to get done. ChatGPT Work. That's really that's that's the next dimension, really, as far as saving time um, and energy and not having to rely on people. My God, I spend so much time relying on people, but Jesus Christ, when it has to do with projects that require a lot of work and sweat, blood, and tears, you can't count on people too much. But anyway, so I watched the tutorial on the way here, coming to work and coming to work, right? And I figured on the way back, I don't want to keep watching that tutorial. I'm gonna go back and work on my AI projects, but yeah, I have about another 8 hours before my shift really starts, and I woke up at 6 because my training ended yesterday. I'm in the mental health field now. My God, life takes me everywhere. Really. Very interesting for me to be in the mental health field, given my position on mental health. Right, so a good friend of mine, I have a good friend. I don't want to say good friend of mine, but a good friend who's an executive director at this facility kind of recruited me to come in um, and work a position that requires that I interact with mental health patients that are criminals. So these are felons with mental health conditions, severe mental health conditions for some of them. So, I'm not allowed to divulge much or any particular information, but let's just say that this is very transformative for me because I had my own mental health issues, and I've been around people that have had their own mental health issues, and I read about mental health issues, and I have friends, many friends in the mental health sphere. They don't even know I'm in this industry now. So it's very interesting because mental health is a very interesting subject. in the sense that many people, most people, and most institutions, most um, most academia see mental health as a medical condition. Um, yo personalmente lo veo diferente. Can I switch it up in Spanish? Can I switch it up whenever I want to? I'm sure I can. Yo lo veo diferente. Yo veo la salud mental, yo lo veo como una reflexión de lo que está pasando la persona internamente. Eso es lo que yo veo. Espiritualmente, digamos. I don't know, you tell me. But I've been through episodes of severe shit, uh, severe stuff, deliriums, and schizo stuff, and paranoia. And thank God, thank the good Lord, thank the good Lord, He saved me from that. Well, you know, not to say it in a churchy way, but Christ is the way. It's a spiritual matter, really. So how do we convey that to the populace? That a lot of these mental health, um, I would personally say all of them, mental health conditions are really spiritual emergencies. Right? Spiritual emergency is something you don't have to go. You don't have to call it that to be going through it. You don't have to acknowledge it as such, especially if if it happens the way it happened to me, which I didn't believe in shit when I was going through my own particular mental crash. I didn't believe in anything, but I did open myself up, and I knew better than to trust the medical system 100%. So, by negation of what I knew was a lie, I left myself open to other possibilities, right? And then started consulting. Hey guys, I'm driving, so I can't really read the message, but what teacher? Yes, yes, yes. Bless up, blessings. Whoever retracted their comment, it's cool. Like, I'm driving, so I can't really look. But T-Lex, respect. It's very true. And it's very it's a delicate topic, but it has a huge impact on how we essentially handle these cases because the treatment the treatment that we apply. Let me cover this. I can't really show where I'm at. The treatments that are given to these patients are not aligned in the frequency of healing. They're aligned in the frequency of suppression, make it go away, punishment and reward, observation. Really, we observe, um, but there isn't a substantial effort to actually get the root of things when it comes to mental health. So, what happens is people um, really don't get better. And I'll tell you something about mental health. If you are working inside of a mental health facility, at the very least, the people that you're dealing with are crazy, or let's say confused. But mental health out in the real world at a crazy rate. You stand next to people at the supermarket, at the bank, and you have no idea what some of these people are going through. So let me see. I got it clear in here. I can read a little bit. The most effective method that worked for me. Absolutely, Absolutely. So that's the excitement about, because look, I've never been in this field at all. I've never been in the field of mental health. I've worked many fields, and I think that's part of what God wanted me to. Part of God's purpose to me was for Him to expose me to different areas of life. So I've done military, I've worked law enforcement, I've been deep in the corporate world, I've been deep in the academia. My life has been very, very diverse. And little did I know, I was just picking up the knowledge that I needed to be able to assess the world for what it was, and then offer my take on things, my version of things. And then it's funny that now it all culminates down to mental health, which is down at the human mind level, which is where everything else occurs. And yeah, that's what it is. It's testimony that I feel that God wants me to give, because He saved me from sheesh. Yeah. So and it's still work in progress. Really, I'm one of those. I didn't grow up I didn't shelter my life, so I exposed myself to hell pretty much. Hell, pretty much. I spent time in hell. So that's what these people are going through, because a lot of them are, I mean, I'm dealing with some of the worst mental cases in the state, and that's it. That's it. So really, really, the hard work, uh, it's not channeling the purpose that Jesus has for us. It's really managing our lives so that He could work through us. So whatever the distractions are, whatever lack of time management we have, mainly distractions, wasting time. That it's just, it's so prevalent right now that we don't know what's real and what's not. But you're right. Once we open up and answer that calling, because to me, to be chosen, all you have to do is answer the calling, because He calls everyone, but you have to choose. You have to choose and allow Him to work through you. And essentially, that's what I see Him doing, is pretty much being able to relate to these people. My last job was actually uh, much prestigious in as far as leadership. I was operations manager for a town, um, and that town was having a lot of homeless problems. And these people, they just wanted to repel the homeless. They wanted to send the cops to shoo them away. We would wake up early in the morning, and I'm sorry, we'd show up to work and find out that the public bathrooms were smeared with shit. The homeless people were angry at the parks, and I wanted to take an approach that wasn't too popular. I think I got fired for being too human, really, for having a community job that was I was too human. I cared too much. On several instances, they pointed that out to me. They say, "Hey, we're not supposed to care that much." Right? So I would go talk to the homeless people, um, because I've always had an interest in not an interest, but an inclination in talking and listening to people. I don't care if they're strangers, because once you let someone know that you see them, they can see themselves, right? So you almost liberate people when you give them a chance, right? Hold on, I gotta read this. I don't know. 15 years, uh, giving my time, my talents, and my skills, sacrificing that personal rat race, which I was a part of prior to all this. I was heavy in the rat race. And then things happened in my life that led me to pretty much crash and burn for that material pursuit. And then realizing how much healing I had to do, and that That was gonna happen through giving. So through giving, through being of service, that was my healing path. God has blessed me because He's shown me that the narrow path will make it through, and that nothing will ever lack. I've lost a lot of people because they don't understand where I'm coming from, and they were pursuing. I mean, this entire choice of life has brought so much chaos, but it's the chaos that I needed. Really, it was really shattering an old reality that I had created. So every step along the way for the last 15 years approximately has been intentional, has been unpopular choices that I've made, uh, as far as not looking for what to satisfy for self gratification, but how to be of service, and and just wait on God to make that sustainable, because I didn't really want to be part of the race anymore and make money from people's problems and that type of stuff, that we're used to. I just wanted to be of value and service and inspire change. And I think that this here is the um, culmination of everything. This is where God is bringing me to work at the individual level with my testimony, at the personal level, because for most of this period, I felt that what I was doing was something that had to be structured, that I was going to bring about structured change, because I'm very big on frameworks and organization and you know creating getting many moving parts into one function. So I felt that my contribution was going to be that I was going to, which I did create foundations, organizations, 501c3s, but that wasn't it. God was the whole time. God was preparing me for that one-on-one with people, right? At their lowest place. Um, and that's not only where I bring my testimony, but where my testimony continues, because this could be very transformative, um, in God's glory, to an entire industry. It could be a catalyst to an entire industry. Um, my brother, well, I don't know if my brother or my sister, but I'm a veteran as well, with the National Guard. I'm former homeless. He's in jail as well, brother. Um, we are very much alike, man. We are very much alike, and blessings to that. Same here. The old me was a troublemaker, and it wasn't evil. It was confusion. It was, when we're not in the right path, we still have the same impulses. We just take them in the wrong direction, and that is because life as is not enough for us. We know there's something wrong deep in our hearts, and we're being, and with brother respect, and we grow up to do our best, but we are being raised and programmed with glitches, right? So to do excellent at that is really, to point downwards, right? So the more money I make, the more evil I have to be, apparently. Uh, but yet, you know, we're raised to grow up and have money and get this and do that. No, 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 no. We're in a new paradigm now. We need to, we need meaning. We need authenticity. We need, and it's in the air really, because amongst my coworkers, I'm seeing some type of curiosity. Even the trainers are now open to, what used to be considered pseudoscience, or metaphysics, whatever, spiritual truth behind our experience, right? And I remember going through a mental health issue where, it was so severe that I was yeah, I was taken to a professional, and I knew that it wasn't a medical thing. So I said, okay, I'm going to make an effort to really get through this medical assessment with flying colors and show these people that what I'm going through, because I was going through it, was not mental. The mind was just processing it. Right? More money, more problems, man. Like the song, we need to be conduits of money. So money's okay for money to go through me. I don't care if billions, right? But I don't need to sit on money. It's just bad energy as it is. And the fact that what we're holding somebody else needs, and just holding all that money in itself is fear and a lack of faith, right? God has been providing like clockwork for, man, almost 20 years on the day, like just on the day. It's just the way things were. I wasn't able to plan, but He would just connect the days one way or another, and He had me do. Uh, we are one. Uh, yeah, I lost 80. I am truly you. The fact that we can connect like this, two strangers, and you're tuning in, just browsing, interested in me, and here we are, really connected. Right? You're my connection for today, right? Today, and I don't know your name. I know the initials that I see here, but we wake each other up to our purpose because it never stops, right? You didn't clock out. You retired from the world, but you're still active everywhere you go. Everybody you touch, every supermarket, people you face, people you speak to, you're transforming them. Because it doesn't take 8 hours with somebody to change them. Sometimes it's just smiling at that homeless person that is just getting shit from people all day, and you decide you're gonna be that person that smiles at them or stops and talks to them, and be authentic, right? You leave people with a different spark for the rest of their day, for the rest of their week, and depends how they handle that, maybe for the rest of their lives, right? So and that's why this is God bless Tim. San Francisco, Tim, God bless. I actually lived in San Jose 1 year of my life, and then Bakersfield 4 years. I have two daughters in Bakersfield. It's part of my story. I'm in Florida now. I have two daughters in Bakersfield, and my journey is crazy. It's crazy. It's almost like God needed someone that He could take apart in a million pieces and then put me back together at His will, right? So no glory to no decisions of mine. My decision, I really wanted to get back in the rat race when I had my crash and burn, but God had something different for me. He says, no, you're taking this road, less traveled, and it's not going to be popular, and you're going to lose a lot because of it. And I took it. And I took it. It's all to His glory because, again, that's how He shows that He's the one that does the work. We're just the vessels. We're just the conduits. And the journey that He put me through the last 20 years, this channel is really where I want to unpack the work He's done in my life. I just haven't found a format because it has so many doors that I can come into this. So that's why I make these videos that are just, just random video. Like right now, this video is because I drove to work. My training finished yesterday, and I drove to work this morning. Got up at 6 a.m., but I was really supposed to be at work at my training finished, so now I have a different shift, and I came from my early shift, so I got to go back home. Um, but my testimony is a testimony of how God works through us, not only for healing, but to understand certain things such as collaboration, concepts such as synergy. Um, Obviously, some of the most foundational things such as forgiveness and and the love we got to give ourselves before we give others. Um, oh, nice, San Jose, California. Yes, I lived. What was it, Kings Avenue? I forgot. But I went to Leyva Junior High over there in California. A year later, I moved to Louisiana. A year later, I moved to Louisiana, and a year after, uh, I moved from I moved to South Florida, migrating from the Dominican Republic with my family as a child when we came to San Jose. That was my first destination in the United States. Uh, and I had family living there already, so that's where we went. We went from the Caribbean all the way to the West Coast, and then made our way back east. But then when the real estate market blew up, uh, and things were doing really well, I was actually working law enforcement in Florida. I was a dispatcher, going into 5 years as a dispatcher, and really on the path to become a road officer. And as that was happening, and I was actually transitioning uh, police work and doing uh, real estate part time. And I'm Dominican, from Dominican Republic. King Road, yep. There's a Safeway in King Road that I used to walk to. Uh, the name of the street will come to me where we used to live. It'll come to me. Uh, but I've never been back since. I go out now more to Central California. But I'm from Dominican Republic. I was born there. Came when I was 12. Didn't speak a lick of English, and I was just thrown into school. I wasn't. I, they didn't have the second language programs that I eventually ended up in Florida. They didn't have those in California, so I was just thrown in and learning through absorption. And then some of my friends, uh, hey, respect, my brother. You know, I have most of my mentors have been black. Oh, really? Yeah, most of my mentors have been uh, black, mostly in business. A very successful gentleman out of Bakersfield, who's in the agriculture industry. He was a mentor, very very wealthy. Ironically, one of the things that I walked away from when Christ kind of came to my life, because he had a plan for my life. He wanted me to pretty much follow a certain curriculum and take over this empire that he had created, because his sons were really, um, all over the place. And he just saw me as a son. But then at some point, he took issues with some decisions that I wanted to make that God had put in my heart, and I said, okay, this is God versus man right here, so I can't. But then right after that, another mentor, brother from Dominica, not Dominican Republic, but a brother from Dominica, native from the native tribes over there, but black, but from the native tribes of Dominica, which changes history completely. But he was my mentor in what came after, which was the world of nonprofits, the world of entertainment, events production, and this to this day he's a mentor, and I carry his life mission to execute it. Um, Thank you, my brother. Thank you, respect, man. You know, I got a second chance, really. I was just another guy, and then in the crash of 2008, I lost everything. Uh, That that is what made me just walk out on the world, because I can't say it was 100% faith. God had to break me down to pieces for me to finally understand, because I was one of those people that uh, I was vested into the world heavily, and I was good at it. I was good at my investments in the world were giving me a lot of worldly rewards, and it, I needed to crash to see that it was all facade. It was all what do they call it? Just an illusion. Um, and not just looking at myself, but then looking at the world, looking where things were going, and saying, "Wow, no one really stops to look at what's going on at the widest scope, from not just their own personal lives, but what's happening in my community, what's happening in my city, my state, my country, what's happening in the world, And God just woke up this interest in me to learn, to know things, to be informed, to let my thoughts participate in the biggest conversations, and have an opinion, and be okay at listening to myself, and not people pleasing anymore. It's all connected. Our deviations are connected to the way we're raised. We're raised to please people. Sometimes we don't listen to our own voice. It becomes easier to get carried away once we get older. you know. But yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think we can see heaven unless we truly see and absorb the heat of the other side. Blessed be anyone that can bypass everything and just end up, you know, with God without a lot of torment. But I wasn't one of those people. I've been through some very, very dark phases in my life, and have gone through things, have done things that, again, it's a miracle that God allowed me to see that I was salvageable, that I could be salvaged, because um, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. Uh, and I know you understand life. I'm not a youngster really. I'm 48. They told me I look a little younger than I am, but oh yeah, absolutely. It's like the seed, really. It's like a seed. It's pretty much the natural process happening in us. The seed needs to break for it to grow. Now, I personally grew up thinking that we were supposed to preserve ourselves, that we were supposed to prevent things from happening, that we were supposed to seek security and predictability and comfort and self-preservation. And I grew up with that even before I came to the U.S. When I came to the U.S., what was introduced to me was immediate gratification. I need it now, right? So like, I don't have to afford something. I could just buy it with some future money. Or what? That was weird, but you know, again, we become absorbed. We migrate. A lot of people migrate, feeling like the highest perspective of life is here. So we come to learn it, right? But it turns out that it's really not. It's just a bigger version of the same illusion, and corrupt the reality that the whole world is living. We're just a little more sophisticated here. And I proudly served. I served. I did 6 years with the National Guard, infantry. Um, and I was all in. I was all in. Really, I was all in. And then after the crash of '08, that I was driven to kind of research, like what's really going on with this economy, because why is it not? Why is one thing happening at the top level and something else happening at the ground level? Uh, it's trickling. Whatever's happening is trickling from the top. So I did my research, and then I realized, oh my God, this is nothing here is honest. Nothing is honest. And that drove me to go into the pharmaceutical,
research and the educational system research, the banking system research, and I said, yeah, I didn't want to turn into a conspiracy theorist, but I could not avoid the conspiracy facts, and that eventually just transformed my life, and I didn't want to partake in anything that was a lie. It just didn't feel good. Even real estate, because I had the opportunity when the market crashed to recreate uh, my real estate operations, recreate them in Dominican Republic. I had some, contacts, and I said, okay, I just take my business there. But then God had me asking myself, like, whose land am I selling? What is it? What am I really doing? We were here for a short period of time, and we're here claiming property, like this is mine, and then my kid, like, what are we? And we're missing the whole picture of living, right? So, and I knew that if I made a drastic change, I was going to be seen as crazy, outcasted. So I had to somehow remain functional in the system, at least in the outskirts, while I created uh, my own paradigm, and then hopefully uh, let it expand. And the truth is that leading up to this job that I have now, I was self-employed for most of my time after real estate. And that self-employment, I just created a big network of change makers and Christ warriors and people in different industries. And that's what I do in my spare time. In my spare time, I'm using artificial intelligence to synthesize all these relationships and all these collaborative opportunities, and uh, taking it upon myself and my network to have an alternative economy, system where we it's more collaborative, more balanced, right? And try to inspire a different microeconomy, because what's going on out there is just too much. And I'm not a political person. I don't care for either side really. I see the same illusion on both sides of the table, so I don't participate in that. I think whatever we do, we have to do it ourselves at the ground level. Um, Absolutely, actually, 100%. Thank you, and God bless. And you see it because you are. Whatever you see is because you are. That's what allows you to identify it and resonate with it. But it's funny because one of the first lessons that uh, my mentor in California, Mr. Stevens, uh, even though we parted ways, he left me with a big lesson on others, putting others first. He had this symbol that he would make out of words. I guess you could call it his sigil. Um, and he had me decode it. And really, it was the word others kind of entangled. He goes, that's what it is, others. And never to forget that if I put others first, God will take care of me. So, and it is, it becomes easier once we realize how everything else fails, really. We just have the impression of function in society, but we're just going very fast nowhere. So, you know, just objectively looking at what we're doing, we can see this is not the way. This is not the way. This helps some, this doesn't help others. And you end up having people that are not deserving, taking everything, and those. But God said the meek shall inherit the earth. So that's something that I also aligned myself with His promise. His promise that if I just, stuck through and stayed in the process, that He would redeem me in His time, right? Because this has cost me a lot. My path has cost me a lot. My path has cost me a lot. It's cost me my daughters, um, not directly, but you know, I just pulled up to my house. But It has cost me. It has cost me everything pretty much. And God has turned me into a loner. I'm a very social person. I've always had big friends circles. You know, I was married to the me and my wife were the perfect couple, and I was the party of the life of the party, and all that. I just saw it go, and then began to understand that I had a lot of false attachments in my life. Um, yeah, and then that's what I did. I had to die. I had to kill that old self because he had no idea. Um, and sadly, watch people kind of flip because they were really attached to that old version of me. So I had to create distance because I felt like everyone in my life was holding me down to a box, and that was their idea of who I was. And I had to decide, okay, am I gonna keep? I'm a Yasser, Yasser, Yasser. That's right, Tim Plesherman. Um, am I going to play along with the charade, or are we gonna ignore this spiritual battle? Because my mental health episodes, which is what brought me here. I mean, I made this video because I ended up driving during at the wrong time to my shift. I really got to go back later at 3 p.m. Really, and and God, my mind was just went blank. My mind just went blank. Um, but there's been a big parallel situation all along, which has been this big bottleneck. Everything that God was sending my way, all the knowledge He was giving me, perception, sensibilities, all that understanding. As it came, I looked at it and I say, wow, this is not, the world is not ready for this. And I have to somehow embody it and yet function in the world, right? But essentially, something that's going to be a long-term transition where I can, those that are touched by me, and I know I won't be the only one doing the work, there's going to be many, but the work that I do will eventually touch people, and some people will be touched later. Like I'm seeing people now after years kind of change their perspective in me, and I just stayed the course. I just stayed the course, using my social media for good, for positive, and just going under the radar for so many years. But now people are seeing the whole picture, and they're saying, "Wow, he was on the mission for a long time," and they're seeing the continuity of everything and how everything I've touched along the way is connected. Like, to me, this mental health thing is the culmination of all that God was really doing for me. Is day one of like actual activation, like God saying, okay, now you've done the work, I'm gonna activate you. And I've done a lot. I've opened nonprofit centers, I've helped so many people that help others, so my impact has been there. I work with kids at the UN in New York. I go every year, take kids to the UN, thousands of kids, as part of this big organization. So I do a lot of impact work, but the real impact God wanted me to do was this vulnerable one-on-one with people. And it's something that, even like the people I live with, I see them, and sometimes their minds are chaotic, but they're not receptive. So God said, "Don't worry, I'm gonna put you where you need to be, so people will be receptive and maybe a little volatile, but they're in the place they need to be to listen to the message, and not to listen to the message, to feel the message. And like you're saying, it's gonna be through my testimony. It's gonna be by me reminding them every day that I'm no different than them. My circumstances are just different." But yeah, Tim, man, it's a pleasure, man. I just got in. I'm gonna actually unpack my laptop, start working. I'm glad you subscribed, really, because I feel like today in this random post. I finally found the where to start creating the foundation for this channel. And then I'm gonna bring a lot. I'm gonna bring a lot. I have amazing friends that I want to interview. Just to have a lot of people. Um, but it all had to start like this, very intimate, very under the radar. Like my channel. I know tons of people, and I purposely don't mix this channel with my personal Facebook and all that because I don't want to open up from that core. I want to open up here, just out in the open, and find people like you, Tim. Uh, Thank you, my brother. Thank you. I felt that as well, and let's be in touch. I really hope to connect with you again. You won't find a lot of coherence in my channel because I was all over the place you know, trying to converge it down to this feeling, right? Uh, I feel more comfortable. Really, this is the most comfortable I've ever felt talking, and I needed to get to this point. It's always been very self conscious, but Tim, you helped me out a lot. So you already put some work in on day one. I appreciate it, and that's what we're supposed to be as brothers. So it's not old; it's eternal. You have an eternal heart. You know, I'm 48. Uh, but I remember like nothing. When I was in my 30s and 20s. So we're all going the same route. It's about living gracefully, and I know God will make a way. Um, Blessings, Tim. I look forward to connecting with you personally again at some point, even if it's just like this. But this is what I need in my life, this type of connection. So, what's up? Great meeting you, and thanks for subscribing, man. Blessings to you too. I'm out, everybody.